Everybody, welcome to What's Up Wednesday. This week, I'd like to talk a little bit about something that we often refer to as see something, say something, or you could call it a speaking up culture. But ultimately, it's the promotion of getting our employees to speak instead of holding their breath when there's or holding their tongue when there's an issue. And I know that this is a topic that has been discussed over and over again in safety and in leadership in general. And overall, I think it's really important to point out that a lot of companies talk about stop work authority in the first orientation that somebody goes through when they join an employer. They talk about stop work authority. They make sure everybody knows that you have stop work authority, that anybody can stop work at any moment for any reason and they won't be punished. But we also understand that that comes with many challenges because there's always that fear of potential retaliation or getting in trouble because you make a mistake and you speak up. And I could tell you a story from 1992 when I was working as an intern for general construction on the I-90 floating bridge job in Seattle across Lake Washington. I remember that I was doing some air monitoring inside the floating pontoons that this floating bridge is built upon. And I was fairly new to safety. It was, I was right in the middle of my bachelor program and I had a four-gas monitor and I went down into the pontoons and all of a sudden the monitor started alarming and the carbon monoxide levels were somewhat high. They were, I think, 140 or 150 parts per million. So at the time, we didn't have cell phones back in the early 90s. I jumped on the radio and I called the office on the radio and asked them to make a quick phone call to um, the safety director who I reported to and asked about, safe carbon monoxide levels. And what I probably should have done is I should have stopped work, pulled everybody out of there, um, and and handled it that way. But, hindsight, I look at what happened despite that. I was quickly called by a superintendent on the radio asking where I was. And he came by in his truck and swooped in and grabbed me and said, "Let's go for a ride." And we drove up and down the miles of bridge deck. And um, he basically punished me. He gave me an earful for creating chaos over the radio by asking a question. Now, if I would have stopped work, I don't know what have happened. I don't know if he would have been more angry at me, but I learned a pretty valuable lesson. And I also learned that stop work authority doesn't always work, and see something, say something doesn't always work. So we have to be very aware of that as we develop our programs and we preach them and deliver them to our staff, because though we all have great intentions when we develop these programs, this is a cultural thing that we really need to think about. And I think that any of you out there watching this can probably think of many situations in your life where you spoke up and probably prevented something, or the situations where you didn't speak up and you watched something unfold. So I can think of a lot of examples raising two boys, and it could be as simple as playing a game of Jenga where you stack blocks and you can literally see a train wreck coming. You could see it unfolding in front of you and you don't say anything, and boom, they learn the hard way, so to speak. And I think those are great teaching and learning lessons of why it's important to speak up. And again, there are a lot of reasons people don't, but let's explore that just a little bit because so much of this relates to culture. So, ultimately, I think the benefits of developing a culture, they speak for themselves. One, you're going to be able to identify hazards much easier. Not only hazards, but opportunities for improvement. I think that it promotes accountability when everybody knows that they really are to be their brother's or sister's keeper and that everybody's expected to do this. It creates a culture of accountability, which is really important. And it really fosters a culture of safety and quality. And I think that's a huge benefit because we know that a safe, high quality culture is usually a very productive culture, and a very productive culture is generally a very profitable culture. So across the board, everybody wins. I think that speaking up also encourages innovation. You think about all the great ideas that come out of somebody saying, I've been watching this, and it's interesting because I have a son who's doing an internship as a mechanical engineer, and he's seeing all the inefficiencies in the company he's working for. And I've encouraged him to speak up and share his ideas because he has a fresh set of eyes. So we can really foster innovation. We can build trust across um, all staff. But again, trust is a very challenging thing because we can destroy it very quickly if we ever punish anybody for speaking up or stopping work if they did so in error. So we got to be really aware of that. And I think overall it promotes good mental health when people feel like their voice matters, their opinion matters. I think we get tremendous benefits out of it to people's overall mental health. I think that the biggest barriers to creating this culture is one, that fear of retaliation. People are afraid that, hey, you're telling us to do it, but then we do it and we're going to get punished for it. I think some people have this idea that their voice doesn't matter. They lack influence and they won't be heard. That's why it's so key that we listen, we ask questions, we show interest. And I think a really big thing is that we have to follow through. If they bring something up, we need to follow through, investigate it, tell them what was done so that it actually encourages them to continue doing that. And I think that maybe the third big reason that people are afraid to speak up is this lack of psychological safety. They feel like they may be judged by others. They might be looked at as a tattletale. There are a lot of different reasons for it. So it takes a tremendous amount of work for us to be able to build this culture, but the benefits are incredible when you really look at it. So I think that some of the things that we can do is really show leadership report and follow through. I said report, I meant leadership support and follow through. Listen to people, encourage, go out and walk around, observe. You see something that seems off and you have somebody watching, ask them, hey, what do you see here? Ask them questions, open their eyes, help them create some observational skills to be able to see things differently. I think we need to establish really clear communication channels. We need to find ways they can report either anonymously or directly. Hopefully, we don't have to worry about the anonymous thing. I think a lot of training and awareness goes into this. We can't just talk about it or put it on a poster on the wall. It's not going to work. We need to positively reinforce and award people for speaking up. So, find something, anything, little thing, some way to reward them immediately saying, thank you for doing that. Here's a dollar coin or here's a t-shirt, a ball cap, whatever it might be. Find a way to reward them and potentially even acknowledge them in front of their peers. That's a great way to reward people. And like I said, really the key to this culture is that you have to address things promptly, and there must be some kind of a follow-through cycle to make it successful. So, think a little bit about this. We all have stop work policies. We talk about it, but how effective is it really? Now, for those of you paying attention, we have a new monthly webcast called What's Your Why? And we're interviewing influential people who kind of talk about their why, whether they were injured on the job, whether they're an influential culture change agent, a speaker, a keynote speaker, whatever it may be. Listen to what they say, because this theme of see something, say something, or speak up is in every one of those messages. And I think it's so important that we kind of turn to real life examples that we've all experienced, and we share those with other people like I have you today. So hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you next Wednesday.